What's up, guys? You got Tim here with the Gutter Growth Podcast. I got Caiden Scalf. Caiden, I can't. How do you pronounce that gutter name of yours?
Citadel.
Citadel. Okay.
Yep. So when I come up with that name, we were transitioning, which we'll get into about me taking over after Dad passed away, and we were wanting to change the name, and I was trying to come up with ideas, and I had an idea, and I was going through fonts, and I come across a font called Citadel, and I happened to recognize the name. Citadel is like, a fortress on a hill. It's strong, and that was kind of the direction I was wanting to take the company, like to focus on the strength of the systems we put in. We just started carrying Alurex last fall, and so I was like, oh, Citadel, and there you go. That was the name. It was all because of a font.
Caiden, you're third generation, aren't you?
Yep.
You're the third guy I talked to in the past week that was third generation.
There's probably not a lot of us in the seamless world. I know Grandpa started in construction. It was kind of a part-time thing. His brother was building houses when they got out of World War II. And then Grandpa worked for International Harvester, and I don't remember if it was a layoff or if he just had enough and quit. Then they started into siding, aluminum siding, windows, things like that. And then they were doing piece gutters originally, old steel piece gutters, those things we all love tearing off because they've got 9 million lead-headed nails in them. And then our supplier had started. At that point, they were hanging gutters. They had a seamless machine, and they were actually making the seamless gutters and dropping them for my grandpa. And then finally, he was like, you know what, we're just going to buy one. And it worked out good because the guy he was getting them from actually was morphing into manufacturing. And so grandpa bought his first seamless machine in 75. And then we had another one we bought in the 80s. And then we finally got rid of that in 2018. So that machine had seen a thing or two, like Farmers Insurance.
Yep, no doubt, man. I wonder when the first machines were starting to be built,
I would say the late 60s, early 70s, if memory serves. I know.
So he must have been one of the first.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's Knudsen or something like that. That was the company. That's it. Yeah. Knife. So they that was I think the second machine was that one. I don't remember what the first one was, but they drove out to Colorado and picked it up. I don't know. I don't think FedEx was a thing back then, so they drove out there and got it, and that machine lasted until 2018.
So you've used that machine?
Yep. I spent a lot of time.
That machine's got a nice deep profile. So it's a little bit different profile than a K, normal K style.
Yeah. The only thing that I hated about that machine, and it was always my fault, according to Dad, and since he's not here to back it up now, I get to say whatever I want. I think he was the one that dropped screws in the machine, not me. And when those would hit them stainless rollers, it was a mess. And then, of course, those rollers are expensive, so we'd get in there with emery cloth, and it was just a matter of time to see who was going to lose a finger or an arm, because you'd be in there running the machine and trying to sand them gouges out.
File it down, little metal file.
Yeah, that's the perfect job for a 10-year-old too, because you've got small hands and you can really get in there, and you got your dad.
So were you 10 when you started?
No, I was 5. I started going out when I was 5. My job, we originally hand nailed. We didn't even have cordless drills back then. We used the spiral nails. My job, we had one corded drill and 100-foot cord, and I would run it in between everybody to get the gutter set. And then once it was set, we'd all get our pouches, go up and start nailing gutters on. I started doing that at 5, making about $1 an hour. It was good times, child labor laws. It doesn't apply to family apparently. And then it just morphed into that. And then we went to the Makitas with them 9-pound batteries that were like a foot long. We went to those forever, and then we've been through just about every brand. We did a little bit of that, but not a whole lot. We mainly did originally when I was a kid. We had the lead-headed spiral nails. So I'll probably die of lead poisoning, because I would, everybody'd stick them things in your mouth. So and then we went to the galvanized spiral nails, and then from there to screws.
Yeah.
There's still actually a guy.
Of that. When I was storm chasing, I tore down a lot of that gutter with the little spiral nails.
Yeah, those things suck. Yeah, you've got to rip on them like a screw, because it kind of unscrews them. There's still a guy about 40 minutes from me that still hand nails gutters. He just thinks it's stronger, and that's what they like to do. And I'm like, hey, more power to you, but I'll have 90 feet of gutter up before you get 20. But okay.
Yeah, you're just using hidden hangers now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we still use hidden hangers, but our preferred method is Alurex's T-Rex. That stuff's the best thing ever.
Yeah, when I started, it was all spike and ferrule down here. I did that for like probably 12 years straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, total different ball game. Most of these guys nowadays don't know anything about it at all.
Yeah, it's never fun when you're tearing them off either, and the front of the gutter rips, and you're like, "Oh, man, now you're trying to bend them things out. It sucks. We got to the point anymore when we come across them, we just sawzall them out. We've got one of the portable Milwaukees, and we just get a real long blade and just chop them things right off.
You can't really do it on a shingle roof, but we got a lot of tile roofs down here. So on the tile roofs, we could take bolt cutters and just kind of like cut it in half, and just so it's cut in half, and then after it's cut in half, you kind of angle it in and just pinch it, and you can pull back, and they come out real easy.
Yeah, I like that tip. See, you learn something every day.
Yeah, but I mean, if you try to do that on a shingle roof, you'll just screw up the shingles, So
that sounds like a roofer problem.
Yeah.
I mean, they're always going along when they're re-roofing and putting 9,000 nails in the back of the gutter before they put the drip on. So turnabout's fair play.
So is this the same company that your grandfather started, or did your dad start a different company?
So that's kind of an odd story. Grandpa started it. My uncles and my dad all kind of had a hand in it over the years. There was some bad blood over what I don't know. I've heard two sides of the story, but who knows what's truth. And so my uncles kind of did their own thing, and then my dad ran it for my grandpa. He passed in 2000, and then ownership went to my grandma. She passed in 2018, and the business wasn't left to my dad like it was always planned on. And so I'll stay out of that drama. But so dad went out on his own, and that business stayed open for a while. And then dad passed this January, and we were actually talking about buying all their assets at the end of the year last year because they weren't doing anything. And then that didn't come to fruition because dad had passed. And then now, with me taking over the company, I made an offer to him, and so it's going to be mine this summer. So
okay.
Basement flooding. Roof leaks. Mold.
No. Have to clean the gutters.
Go back to sleep, honey. We installed one gutter guard.
Prevent unexpected and costly damage from clogged gutters. Protect your home with one gutter guard, the trusted solution for gutter protection. Call us today to schedule your free gutter inspection and estimate.
Okay.
So it's still the same family, but the company's split over the years.
Is that a different name?
Yeah.
Are you going to get rid of it or keep it one name? Or?
Yeah, I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah, just keep everything under Citadel.
Yeah. Good deal, man. So you just took over this company, what, a couple months ago?
Yeah, officially we did all the paperwork. I think it was February 1st. Dad passed January 17th, so we had a period there where we were grieving, trying to figure out what we were going to do and what was going on. And then we got everything taken care of. Yeah, I think it was February 1st. So,
yep. I know we talked back, I don't know, 6 months or so ago, and you were trying to start to grow it, but you had a little resistance there.
a little is an understatement. Actually, Dad was very old school, and he never really needed to grow the company. Dad always worked second shift at a factory. Excuse me. He did that for 40 plus years. And he would get up, he'd work gutters from about 8 till noon every day, go home, take about an hour nap, go to work. He'd get home about 1 o'clock in the morning, sleep, get up, do it over again. He did that Monday through Friday. Saturdays was either really big gutter jobs or just, as many as we could get done. And then we never really worked Sundays. And that was my entire life until Probably around like 2014, 2015, when Dad medically retired from his factory job. He got hurt pretty bad. And so he was essentially at that point, he was just our chauffeur. Dad would drive around. He could not let go of control. Even with me being there and doing it my whole life, it was his way or no way. And that was actually even a part of his eulogy. The pastor had said, yeah, Russ would go around and check on the guys to make sure things were getting done the right way. And I kind of heckled him and I said, no, not the right way, his way. It had to be done his way. And so that was kind of Dad. He never really needed to grow it. Never really wanted to. He was content. Right. And so my mom passed the end of 22. I took over operations in the spring of 23, and I started really focusing on wanting to grow the company.
Mm-hmm.
This spring's our 50th year as a family doing this, and so I wanted to really see where we could go. In my mind, we should have been 10 times bigger than we are 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And Dad and I got into a huge argument over it. He's like, nope, not going to happen. It's not possible. The market can't support it. And I'm like, well, no, not when you want to focus on our hometown of 13,000 people. You're never going to achieve that kind of growth.
You're going to widen the territory.
Yeah. And so that was kind of my plan. Dad did not like it. He's like, well, you just can't do that. And I said, well, I can. I don't have to be back at noon to go to a second job, right? Like, this is all I'm doing. So I can do that. And he just was so set in his ways that it just wasn't possible in his eyes. And just being averse to change, period. Like, my dad was very old school. If it's not broke, don't fix it. New and great is scary, not awesome and innovative. And so it was a big challenge. I remember our first Alurex job. Dad was like, oh, that stuff can't be that strong. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if you can tell, camera adds some weight. I'm already big as it is. And I sent him a picture of me hanging off of this gutter. And the response I get back was, good thing it's strong or you'd be paying for a gutter right now. And I text him back, no, I'd just cut it up and you'd never know. And so that fight started great that afternoon. But he just did not believe it. He was like, nope, it's too good to be true. It doesn't work, blah, blah, blah. And then as things progressed and we started installing it more and more, he was like, well, we should put that in my house. And I'm like, no, we're not putting it in your house. It's not good
great for snow, huh?
Yeah, it is. It's amazing for snow and ice.
Shout
which
out
we get a lot of here. Yeah. I love those guys. I harass Kevin weekly. By the way, shout out to Kevin. You owe me whiskey glasses. And so that's been the biggest challenge is trying to explain to Dad that we can be more than what we always have been, and we can grow, we can service more people. And so I started, you and I had talked about it. I'd started just kind of making it happen. I was like, well, what are you going to do? You're old. You can't breathe. You can't walk. You're not going to stop me. Like, I'm just going to do these things. And so I started doing it. And then when he started seeing the benefits and the rewards from it, he started getting on board. He was like, oh, okay. And so we got a website. We had never advertised. I think we had like a Yellow Pages ad, like 92. And it was because I think we traded for it too, probably. We probably like, we'll put a gutter on your shed and you give us that ad. It was probably something like that. But other than that, it was just hats, business cards. We had some shirts over the years. And then on the side of our old bread van, that's what we started with. That was it as far as advertising. No yard signs, no nothing. Like, people would go in the phone book, look up the company name, couldn't find it. It was like my dad's phone number was on the side of the truck. So you'd have to look his name up if you knew it. Like, and so almost every job, it was like, man, you guys are hard to get a hold of, but everybody says to call you guys. And Dad was like, yeah, we don't advertise. It's all word of mouth. He was very proud of that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my point to him last fall was, Dad, it's 2024. Everybody's on the internet, even like in the local Facebook groups, people would say, well, who do you call? And everybody would comment Dad's name or the business. But people still at that point go and look. They go look at your Google reviews. They go look at your Facebook reviews. And when you don't have any of that, it's kind of suspicious, right? Like, and I had to really hammer it on him. And I was like, we need a website. He's like, nope, not paying for it. And I was like, Dad, like, it's cheap. Like, Come on. And so I had built it myself. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't anything great. Like, I'm not Mr. Pipeline, so I'm not going to build a fantastic website. But it was something, and it did work. It was actually awesome because, of course, I tied it to our Google business page, and a couple of days later, we got a $4,000 or $5,000 sale off of the website. And of course, I'm right over there going, "Told you, this is why we needed it."
You had to prove your way.
Yeah, and so and even that, like, you could be Einstein and explain the theory of relativity to my dad, and he'd be like, "Nope." Like, if he didn't agree with it, you were wrong. It didn't matter if you were an expert in your field or not. That's just how my dad was. Um, and like, I still hear him now on certain stuff. He's like, "Oh," I can just hear him in the back of my head every day at work, just yelling about stuff. Because my dad wasn't a talker. He was deaf in one ear, so he talked loud anyway. And then to make sure that you understood and that you heard him, he was extremely loud about everything. And we joked about that at the funeral. We were carrying the casket to the gravesite, and I, me being the creepy morbid guy I am, I started hollering at the other pallbearers like, "Hold me level, damn it!" Just like in Dad's little grovelly voice, and everybody started laughing. I thought we were going to drop him, but we didn't. And so, like, that's the thing with the business. It's been kind of a blessing that I'm able to make all those decisions now and do what I want to grow the company. But at the same time, it's still kind of weird because I can still hear Dad, and like, even with just other things in the business, like, I'm still in the transition of getting things from his place to mine. And like, you go out there to get stuff and you feel like you're stealing it, right? Because Dad's not there to say yes or no, or you can do this or you can do that. And
Yeah,
so
it's an adjustment.
it's kind of been an adjustment, yeah, to get through that. But I very much like the fact that I can pretty much do whatever I want now as far as marketing and advertising and trying to grow the company. We've been sponsoring things like crazy through the Chamber of Commerce, trying to get our name out there, doing a bunch of different things, stuff that Dad wouldn't do. Like, I told him last year, I'm like, "You need to join the Chamber of Commerce." He's like, "I'm not paying $200 a year." I'm like, "It's $200 for a whole year. Like, come on, man." He wouldn't do it. So literally, like, that was I think that was the first check I wrote when I switched everything over. Was I'm like, "Well, we're doing that now." Um, but he was just very traditional. He come from that time frame. Like, my grandpa was that way when my dad was growing up, and they. I remember Dad talking about when they switched from aluminum siding to vinyl, and vinyl became the big thing, and
Yeah.
that my grandpa was like, "Well, I don't know," but they finally come around, and it was very financially beneficial for him because they had already put
Everybody wanted
aluminum
it,
on.
right?
Yeah, they put aluminum on all these houses already, and now, well, who do we call? We call the guy that did a good job with the aluminum.
Change is hard. I mean,
yeah,
when hangers first came out, it took me 2 years to change. I was like, I'm not using those.
yeah, yeah. We were the same way. We used to use these really narrow ones that are one of our manufacturers made in house, and then they came out with a new one that was real wide and supposed to be more heavy duty. And even with all of that, like, and you can feel them, right? You can just tell they're stronger, they're a little bit better made. And my dad was like, "No, we're not doing that." And he finally come around to it, and then it was, "Oh, these are the greatest thing ever. This is all we'll ever use." And so it's just been just hard for him. And then now with me, I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, how hard can we push on this gas pedal to get things going?
What are your goals this year?
Make as much money as possible, of course.
So
That's everybody's
like,
goal.
floor to the pedal or metal to the pedal.
Yeah, I am, but I'm not. I'm trying to be very strategic about it. I don't want to throw good money after bad money and different things. So I'm very careful with what I'm doing. My main plans are essentially to just dominate the area based on our history in the industry. I don't think there's but maybe two or three within an hour radius that are anywhere near as old as we are. Um,
Are you going to
and
play
so,
on that with your marketing?
yeah, we've been doing that. We're actually trying to get everything on our website now. I was meeting with the marketing team yesterday. We're doing a giveaway for our 50th year. We're going to give away an entire gutter system on a house. Obviously, there's some exclusions, like I'm not giving away copper. Obviously,
Yeah.
like nobody's going to do that. Um, And so we're trying to get that all finalized. That's going to be great to, to market. They're designing me a couple of different options for Facebook cover photos for, 50 years in business and things like that. So we're really trying to play on that. And then just the fact that, I obviously don't ever want to talk bad about my competitors, but our quality versus other people's quality, the different things that we do that's different, and it explains why we charge what we charge. I had this conversation with a homeowner a couple of days ago. She didn't hire us. She said I was the highest quote she got. And I told her, I said, I understand, I get it. Price is a factor. This is why we're higher, because I knew who bid against me. And I explained it to her. She was just looking for price, which some people do that. They're not looking for value. She was wanting to sell the property. She just needed gutters. And so I get it. And so we really are trying to tailor to where we have a package for every customer, but we're more geared towards high-end clients, where we're a premium company. We offer premium products. We're not just here to slap gutters up and go. We don't do anything like that. We have a rule that my grandpa started, and I continue because I think it's necessary in most cases for most installers. Anything over 20 foot gets chalk lined, and you follow the chalk line. If you don't like it, adios. I mean, that's just the way we've always been. That's one area where I won't change. But it's a huge selling point for us too. That has actually won us a lot of jobs, because the majority of our competitors don't use chalk lines. They just throw it up, kind of eyeball it. If you're lucky, they'll put a level on it. Most of them don't. We actually replaced a gutter not too long ago. They used a chalk line, but apparently never checked it anyway, and the water was still flowing backwards. So, that it's something that we try to just hammer on and press to our customers, that we go above and beyond to ensure that everything is done and done right. We really hammer on the, in 5, 10, 15 years, are these other companies still going to be here? Just in my time, I'll be 38 this year. I've been doing gutters since I was 5, and I probably tell you for a fact, in my hometown, 13,000 people, I've probably seen 20 gutter companies come and go in that time. And it's not price. It's not anybody racing to bankruptcy. It's strictly a quality thing. These guys, gutters is very lucrative, and they see that, but they don't understand the installation side. They don't understand the business side. They come in, they just hang them and go. And then when there's problems, they don't show up to fix it. We've had 3 callbacks in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And all of them were leaky miters, and they were all my fault, actually. So
it happens to best of us.
Yeah, one of them I completely forgot to caulk a screw. So, you get the headphones in, you start jamming, it happens. But I was there within 24
That's an
hours.
incredibly low callback rate.
Yeah. We take our time. I'm a perfectionist by nature. It drives me nuts that I have this bald patch in my beard. I'm thinking about getting a Sharpie all the time. I'm very weird about small stuff. My dad and I would go round and round. There's a point where perfectionism becomes problematic and costs money in the long run. And I've been known to go to that extreme. My dad would often scream at me that I was paying attention to stuff that did not matter. And he would do the exact opposite. He wouldn't pay attention to stuff that I thought mattered. If I see a tiny scratch in a downspout, I won't use it. I don't like touch-up paint on spouts. I don't think it blends in very well. There's
That's why
I
would try to stay off of the job sites. After I transitioned to not doing because if I'm there, I'm a pain in the ass for those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was that guy that wouldn't let my helper touch anything for a long time.
Yeah, my cousin's that way. You're pretty much a glorified just gutter holder. That's it. You just stand there like this, and then he comes along and does everything.
Get out of my way.
Yeah.
So this is what I found.
Okay, so you're telling me my clogged gutters caused all this? I had no idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, most homeowners don't think about their gutters until this kind of stuff happens.
Wow.
Prevent unexpected and costly damage from clogged gutters. Protect your home with One Gutter Guard, the trusted solution for gutter protection. Call us today to find out why more homeowners are choosing One Gutter Guard.
Yeah. I'm not like that. I'm up there. If I'm on the job, I'll help get the gutters set, and then you better have that damn thing screwed by the time I'm done making downspouts. And if you
That's how I
don't, we're
eventually
gonna have a
got.
conversation.
It took a good 12, maybe 15 years for me to transition to that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, it's your baby, it's your name, and for me, it's even more hard because it's not just my name; it's my whole entire family. Like, this goes back generations, and so like I don't want to be the one that screws everything up, and so I got to be careful with what we do. Matter of fact, we just if they're watching this, they're going to find out now. We just switched suppliers because of a box of miters. We've been. My dad refused to switch from box miters. Sorry, I just threw up my mouth a little. For years, decided last fall we were going to phase them out. Well, we had a ton of them in stock.
You in strips
And no, hand cut.
Hand cuts. Nice.
Yeah. And so,
My favorite.
it was just another thing that I'm like, well, I can do it. None of these other clowns can, nor will they. And so I'm like, well, that's just one more thing to set us apart.
Everyone, not to cut you off, but everyone thinks it takes so much time.
Yeah, I don't.
I think it's faster to hang it.
It is.
To be honest with you. Like,
it
you go up there and you set it, and once it's set, you're just butting into the next one. You don't have all this guesswork going back and forth.
Yep.
If you didn't mark it.
Yeah, it's way faster, way faster, especially with box miters, because the way we've always done box miters is it's 6 screws per side. So you get 4 in the bottom, 2 in the face, and then on the inside you get 1 on the back of each one. Yep, you got to caulk all that crap, smooth it out, and it's so much faster to just hand cut it and be done. Even if you rivet it, like it's still faster. Yeah, that was one of those things. Well, we'd ran into this job where we needed box miters. And I was like, okay, I got 1 box left. I'm going to be pretty close to getting rid of them. It was a set of duplexes. And we've always used high gloss white. I look at the box and it says low gloss. I'm like, oh, crap.
I'm a low gloss guy.
See, we've never used low gloss. We
why?
Never have.
Because I was a high gloss guy for a while, but I got tired of seeing every imperfection. And if you just go with the low gloss white, it's not going to have that sheen to it where. And then if you really think about it, I've never seen a high gloss fascia board.
Yeah. Yep. They don't have it. We've always done it. My dad and my grandpa swore that it helped keep tiger striping away longer. I don't think it does, my personal feelings. But I do like when you step back, I like that offset from the fascia, and I love the shine on it. Yeah, it looks brand new. You can tell something was done. And so that's why I've always liked it. And so back to the corners, I emailed our supplier and I said, hey, I just found this box. It's low gloss. I opened it just to make sure it wasn't mislabeled. Is there any way I can just do a straight up exchange? And the response I got was, no, that was purchased under your dad's account, which is no longer active. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, it's a box of corners, like $100. Like, this is nothing. And so then I got to thinking, and I'm like, so if they won't do that for these, what about all this other inventory they have? Because I have a ton. I'm like, are they going to warranty any of this because that was bought under dad's? Like, what if I open a box of spouts and it's all scratched up? Are they going to give me that crap? So I'm like, you know what? We're done. We'd had some other issues in the past, but that one was the one. I ended a 50-year business relationship over.
Are you saving money now with the Switch?
Yeah, Spectre's been great now. We're with Spectre now. Shout out to Beth. She is awesome. They actually, I needed high gloss, and of course the location closest to me doesn't carry it because nobody there uses it. And they went, I think they got it out of Texas at one of their locations in Texas, maybe, she said. They ordered quite a bit of it for me. And they're bringing a order on Monday. Yeah. So it was a big difference in invoicing. I was very happy. So, and of course,
that stuff adds up. You might have just saved $30,000 this year.
Yeah. And it's a bummer because like I value loyalty. I value relationships. And like I said, we've been with this same supplier for 50 years. We were one of their oldest customers. And they're on their 3rd generation of ownership. And it was just very sad that it ended over that. I mean, I could have probably pushed it into the owners and talked to them about it, but I was like, you know what? If this is the way it's going to be from a sales rep, I don't even want to discuss it with an owner. I'm done. And it's hard because they're 30 minutes from me. So like if I need something, I
You
can
know
have
what?
it like that.
That culture normally comes from the top.
Yeah, exactly.
I've
And
seen
so
certain distributors, not naming any names, but I've seen certain ones that were, really big into gutters for a long time, and then all of a sudden they started shitting on all the gutter guys and only cared about roofers,
Yep.
and then the service went down. But it's because the top, that was their decision, and then it goes through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's something you and Grant have talked about multiple times on the podcast is, being a company that the top is where it's all at, that's where it starts, and
It's the head.
having that culture, and it's very, very sad. It really, really sucks because I remember literally running through their manufacturing floor as an 8-year-old, which I mean, good God, if OSHA would have found out about that, it would have probably been bad. But I mean, my grandpa would go over and have coffee with the original owner of that place, the founder, and I'd just be off doing stuff. Nobody knew where I was. I was off running through, watching coil spin and hangers come out of machines, and just enamored with it. And that's all gone now, over $100. And it wasn't the money; it was just the point of, I expect if my customers call me,
well, you want to be treated right,
Yep, and they have an issue, we go above and beyond. Like that's what we do. Like we will bend over backwards to make a customer happy. I don't care if I lose a little bit of money. It'll come back. Like if you take care of your customers, it will come back 100-fold. They will tell everybody.
It's true.
You screw a customer one time, and they will tell more people than those happy people will tell.
I've even given a couple customers money back, probably 3 times, not a whole lot, but there's a time for it.
Yep, absolutely. I upgraded a guy into 3x4 spouts one time just because, I mean, maybe I felt for a sob story. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sap, but he really wanted the bigger downspouts, and I said, well, it's going to be this much more, and I'm on a fixed income and all that. And I said, you know what? Don't tell anybody I'm a nice guy. I got a reputation to protect, but we'll go ahead and make that happen for the same price. And I couldn't tell you how much business we've got off that guy over the years.
Oh yeah, no, when someone, especially when you give a really, really good impression, people are going to talk. They just are.
Yeah,
but even more so if you give someone a bad impression. So I think it's better to for no one to say anything, because you did a good service and maybe you didn't get any new business out of it. You went above and beyond, but you didn't get any new business out of it. But you didn't get anything bad. And if you got something bad, like that stuff, they really tell everybody. If it's a bad experience, they probably tell 10 times the amount of people that
yes, they do.
Is going to tell.
Yes, they do. We had a lady call us last fall. Last fall we started all the marketing stuff. That was when we started asking for Google reviews, and we still have a low amount of them, but we're building on it, and they're all 5-star. And this lady calls, and she's literally angry. She goes, "Are you paying people to put up 5-star reviews?" And I'm like, "No." And she's
There's
like,
so many people doing that now.
Yeah, and she's like, "Well, are you sure?" And I'm like, "Pretty darn." I said, "Usually they give me either a handful of cash or a check, and then they give me a good review." And she's like, "Well, nobody's perfect." I said, "I didn't say we were perfect." and she's like, "Well, I just don't understand how you're getting 5-star reviews." And I said, "Well, I tell the homeowner this is what we're going to do. This is how much it's going to be, and then I just do that, and that usually works." And she just loses her mind, and I'm like, "Well, do you need an estimate or anything?" She's like, "No," and hangs up. And I'm like, "You literally called me to tell me you were mad at me about nobody being mad at me."
You don't want her to be your customer.
No, I kind of do.
Give you a bad review.
I kind of do, because I want to make an example out of this lady.
Yeah, I get it.
We did end up with one bad review, but it got deleted, and it was because of how my dad answered the telephone. That was an amazing one. He'd been getting telemarketers all day. So I called her and talked to her and told her what was going on. And she felt bad because my dad was an old geriatric. But so I got off of work one day and I come home and all the Google stuff come to me, and I was talking to my wife, and all of a sudden, ding, you have a bad review from Chelsea. And I'm like, "Who's Chelsea? We ain't done a good job for anybody named Chelsea." And so I read it, and it was about how my dad answered the phone and blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So I called Dad and I was like, "What's the phone number for that lady that just hung up on you?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" I said, "A lady called for gutters." He goes, "Yeah." I said, "She hung up on you?" He goes, how'd you know that? And I said, because she left us a battery, and started just screaming at him. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll call her. I'm like, you're not talking to her. Give me the phone number. And so gives me the phone number. I call her, explain to her he's old, that's how my dad is. And everybody like in our town and in our county, they all know that. They expect it.
Yeah.
Because literally this is how he answers the phone. Yeah. Is this the gutter guy? Yeah, what do you want? So that's how he answers the phone. And so she just hangs up. And I don't blame her. I would have hung up too. And so for Christmas, I typed out how to properly and professionally answer the phone and gave it to him, which he proceeded to glance at and then wad up and throw in the garbage can.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, it never happened. But yeah, I was really on him. I mean, it's the little things. It's small impressions. Even if you're like me, you're a mom and pop. You work out of your house. You still answer the phone professionally. Like that's just a must. And so Dad wouldn't do it. I mean, it's just little changes like that. I mean, that's how change averse he was. Like, couldn't even say blah 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 gutters. Like nope. I'm just gonna say hello. That's how it was. And you're lucky if you got a hello. But he had been getting telemarketers all day that day. It was a bad day. And a lot of that came from, me setting up a website, putting his phone number out there on the internet.
Yep.
And yeah, he was not happy. He was like, it'd be all right if these were all actual calls for gutters, blah, 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 just griping all the time.
So you're going to go into this with like a growth mindset.
Absolutely, yeah.
Kind of learn from the old timers' ways.
Yep. So heavily focused on growth. Really, like we said, just quality, length of time in the industry focus, and then as big as we can get that's comfortable. Like right now, I mean, if I really wanted to, I could be, that type of gutter guy, which there's nothing wrong with it, where I only work as much as I want to or need to. But I have 3 boys, and one day, hopefully they take over the company. And so my goal is to make it big enough that they all 3 have a job that will be able to support them and their families. And so that's kind of the direction I'm heading in. We expanded from, basically just being in our own county to right now we'll travel, around an hour and a half away. And then we're slowly going to be adding trucks and teams and things like that, just as we can, not putting the cart before the horse, obviously, and shelling out a bunch of money. But that is something that this summer we're going to take that next step and add a truck, and then probably this fall, if things are going well enough, add a 3rd truck. And then my goal is next spring that I am no longer on the tools, unless it's an emergency or I just want to, which I don't. I'm done climbing ladders. I do know that I feel bad for whoever is this first truck that we add, because they're going to do all of the extension ladder jobs. I just know that because I do scheduling. And so I feel bad for them, but I am really done climbing those ladders.
I decided last year I'm never getting on a ladder to do work again.
I don't blame
Unless
you.
I'm just getting up on a roof to check something out.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
Yeah, it gets old. It gets old.
Well, I mean, and it doesn't do your business any good at a certain point, because you're stuck in your business again, instead of being on it, controlling everything and, working on it. So,
yeah,
I'm just not doing
that's the dilemma I'm at right now. So I was actually talking to a friend this morning. I said, it's been a real challenge. This last month, March, we had a record March. And so that felt good, obviously, because that was, a full solid month of my own. February was slow, but it was February and it's cold. So that's a given. We had a record March so far. We're on pace to have a record April. I think, let's see. Yeah. So today's April 4th. We're 4 days into the month, and we're halfway towards what we did in revenue last April. So we're doing really well this month.
You'll double up this year, I bet.
Yeah. And so, I found myself this morning answering phone, answering emails, marketing things, and just meetings and stuff like that. And plus, we went and did a small job, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I need 3 of me." And so
let me know when you need a VA, because I got VAs that'll answer the phone and everything.
Well, I've got a Mrs. Caiden that needs to get trained. That, and I love being able to joke and tell everybody I'm sleeping with my secretary. So, um, but yeah, that was the thing this morning. Is I'm like, oh my gosh, we're at this point now where I really need to sit down and get serious about hiring some more people, because we're not even officially in our busy season yet, and we're already. I don't know what I like. I had to look at the calendar. I have no idea what day it is. I mean, we planned this podcast, and we talked like 5 times about it being different time zones, and I even put a note about it. And then you messaged me like, "Hey," and I'm like, "Oh crap, that's 2 o'clock your time, isn't it?" So just constantly on the go. It's a great thing, right? Like we're growing. That's obvious.
Growth is painful. Like the
Yes.
saying, "Growing pains" is like a real thing.
Yes. And so it's very wonderful. I feel very blessed that, I'm in this position. So I just got to start doing some thinking and some hiring, but we're still doing some fine tweaking on the website. And then we're going to have, an application on there. We're going to start putting things out on social media and stuff like that, which was, a podcast tip, of always be hiring, whether or not you actually commit to hiring the person,
Right.
get the applications, have that pool of people. Um, you never know when you might find that right gem, and whether you're ready or not, you should probably hire that person. And that's something I learned from the podcast. um that was my main reason for wanting to come on here today, was just my little way of giving back, because I've learned a lot, even with being a third generation, and being in various businesses in my life, not just gutters. I've always had my hands in a little bit of everything. Nobody knows everything. That's why, like, you and Grant, you guys are a team. You have other people on the
Yep.
team. You always surround yourself,
And
and
they all
that's
have
you see
strengths.
that. Yes, and you see that in businesses all across the world. The most successful businesses have good leaders, good teams, and people that complement each other. And so that was kind of my thing with wanting to do this, was being able to give back in some small way and talk about the struggles that our families went through, because we've not wanted to take those steps and not wanted to do those things to grow. I remember the very first time I come across gutter growth, and I was like, what's this crap? And I read about it, and I'm like, oh, this is a joke. What is this crap? And then the more I seen it and the more I started looking into it, I was like, oh, this is pretty sweet. And then I'd have my moments where I'm like, oh, screw that crap. And it was just that struggle of trying to break away from that old school mentality that my dad, gave to me, of, trust no one,
Yeah.
that it's all only you're the only one that can help yourself, and all these things. And,
The world's
it's been
changing.
it's been a struggle, but it's been a great struggle. It's been real eye opening. And I've made some great friends. I know I harass you and Grant all the time, and my main buddy, Robert Smith. I love him. He cracks me up. Talk to him
Yeah,
all the time.
his short the other day he posted was
Yeah.
hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. No habla. Yeah. So yeah, that was great. I've made a lot of friends through this, and a lot of different things. Like I've always known about Alurex. I remember when they first came out, and I tried to get my dad to do it then, and he was like, "Nope, it's too expensive. Never be able to sell it." Blah blah blah. And then here we are 20 years later, and I finally put my foot down, and I'm like, we're doing it. And it was literally just because I'd seen them on the podcast, and it clicked in my mind, hey, I remember that name. And so and I remembered the product, and then I was like, Dad, we need to revisit this. And he said no again, of course. 20 years, nothing changed. But then I just put my foot down, and I was like, well, I'm going to order it. What are you going to do? And
Caiden, I got a couple minutes left. What is one, like, if anyone can learn anything from you today, from your experiences, what's that one gold nugget of advice that you think you could give them?
I would say be open-minded about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be so stuck in your own way, not just in your ways, but in your own way. Like, just like my dad would not use hangers with a screw in it because they were cheap. And I'm like, I don't understand how's that cheap? Like, I don't get it. But like, just things like that, that mentality of, you are the only person that knows anything. You are the only person that knows what's right, what's wrong. I would have never in a million years wanted to do hand cut miters. We've always done box miters. I didn't really like the way they looked, but as I saw them and started learning different things, I was like, wow, this is actually pretty nice. It looks good. It's faster. Hey, this is a win. get out of your own way, get
ends up
out of your
hindering you.
ways. Yeah, like that's probably the biggest nugget is just getting out of your ways and out of your own way. Like listen to other people, learn from others, just be a sponge.
No, I love that. And an example, I my grandparents, I had my grandfather, he's maybe, I don't know, 84, 85 when he passed. But he was on his cell phone texting my kids, texting my kids, his great grandkids. And then my grandmother, she was probably, about the same age. It wasn't his wife, it was on the other side of the family. But she did not embrace cell phones. So then, in her later years, it hindered her so much because now she's like having to get a taxi to go, maybe the doctor or someone. She didn't have someone to give her a ride, and she's paying 3 times the amount when she could just be Ubering. And there's just all these things that it starts hindering you if you don't make the change and kind of evolve as you go.
Yep.
So yeah, I love that.
Yeah, Spectre is a prime example. We were on the way to Spectre. Dad and I had been talking about it because of price increases through our supplier. But that was one thing that I didn't think was going to happen. And then when we had the last coil increase, Dad was like, well, let's talk about it. And I got a quote on some pricing, and it was before even bulk buying, and it was significant difference. And so just little things like that, getting out of your comfort zone and what you're familiar with, man, it really, that could be, like you said, $30,000 in revenue a year. Like that can go towards marketing, hiring, all kinds of different things to really fuel growth. So
good deal, man. So I appreciate you coming on here. I think this was a great
thanks for having me.
Had a lot of fun. So
yeah, me too.
Good deal, man.
Don't forget. Let's end it on the hashtag FF. If you know, you know.
No doubt. All right, brother. You have a good day.
Yep. See you, bud.